on the screen and enroll to AFADMA today and learn this powerful and high income skill called online community management.
Okay.
We all were born with skills. We all were born with potentials. Make use of that potentials within you. Unveil that potentials and learn skills to harness them, and you will be a great person in the future. Thank you so much.
Please stop complaining every day that the government is not helping you, your parents have not helped you, your aunt has not helped you. Meanwhile, you have a phone and a laptop to help yourself. Take this opportunity, learn some skills and better yourself financially, looking for your own money. We want to thank all of them, Mr. Henri, Owona. We also want to thank Mr. Neba Paul and Merian, Engel for this information that they've passed out to our audience. We, as announced in the beginning of the program, are going to be talking about women empowerment. Is there a narrative that has been given out to our population, especially Africans, about women empowerment? And is there need to change that narrative? This evening, with wonderful lady and gentlemen, we are going to be looking at how men and women are going to be reconstructing a fresh, unbiased narrative for African men and women on the notion of women's empowerment. We have just been joined by Mr. Ayah. Mr. Ayah, I don't know, we start with you. Yes, Mr. Ayah W. Abine. We're glad to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited, and I'm certain that we're going to have a conversation that will bring a lot of sustainable transformation to Africa.
Are you the son of Ayah Paul?
Yes, I am.
Okay. The pioneer, I don't know, pioneer of the Popular Action Party, who is out there in Boya, Southwest Regional Capital. We also are in the company of Claude Anganga. Is Anganga? Yes. Glad to have you with us for the first time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. I'm glad to be here. It's a wonderful thing to share best practices, share ideas for a greater Africa.
We are also in the company of Mr. Caleb Masanga. Masango. Is Masango?
Masango.
Okay, we are glad to have you for the first time on Prime Hour.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. I'm glad to be here.
And the lone lady, iron lady amongst these gentlemen is Timia Tandi, who is the CEO founder of Gateway Africa. We're glad to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liu. I am delighted to be here this evening.
I'm starting with you, since they say ladies before gentlemen. So we're talking about the origin and definitions of women empowerment, and also asking ourselves whether there is a misconception on this. What are you trying to pass on to the population out there?
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Liu. I would like to journey with us a little bit back to the 1980s, when the concept of women's empowerment started. Mm-hmm. At this point, there was an objective and a direction to which this subject was to go. The idea around women's empowerment at the time was to build on the skills of women, to build on their capacities to ensure that they could play their part in promoting social development, community development, development in the family, and of course, to a larger extent, development of the nation. Coming now to our current realities in Cameroon and Africa in particular, we first of all want to appreciate the work that has been done so far in terms of women's empowerment. Bodies of the United Nations and other women organizations that are putting in efforts to ensure that women's capacity is being built. Mm-hmm. We cannot say no to what they have done so far. In Cameroon, we realize that so many women, especially those in leadership circles, those who have been empowered, are using empowerment, which has been understood from a different perspective as power, to carry out control in their homes, dominance in their homes, and are taking advantage of this to play victim roles based on the understanding they have through empowerment that there are rights that back women in society. Mm-hmm. And so some women in such circles, or women who have been empowered, are now becoming tyrants. They are actually leading aspects of I would want to use the word breaking homes through their actions and communicating such energy across other women in the name of empowerment, and to say that it is power and not empowerment. So I think there's this misconception on what empowerment should be and what empowerment should not be.
Yes, you say power and not empowerment.
Right.
What do you mean by this?
Okay, coming to say empowerment, we say empowerment is building capacity. It's building self-esteem. It's building your value, that you may be able to perform a particular action or carry out a particular activity. For example, if I engage myself into an IT training, for example, I am building capacity in that domain to be able to perform the duties of an IT expert. Now, another aspect of empowerment has to do with building our mindsets, which I think is where it all begins. But now we are using this knowledge, we are using these skills, and based on the narrative that has been spread so far, to alter what should be happening in homes. Now we are talking about a narrative in an African context. I want to believe that at the time when these policies were being built, we're looking at it from a global perspective. Coming to Africa, have we been able to break down and narrow this to fit into our context and ensure that we are actually not stepping out of what would preserve our values, preserve our culture, preserve our heritage as a people? Okay. We have women who are no longer respectful because they have been powered, not empowered.
Okay, they are drunk with the concept.
Right.
If I understand what you're saying, I want us to look at it's Ayah. I'll start with you. I want you to explain to them simply what is and is not women's empowerment.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Liu. I'm excited, as I mentioned earlier, to be here. And I think going straight to the conversation, whether in 1960 when it was informal with the pioneer ladies, or 1985 when the UN actually sat down to start putting things down, I think from the moment when the man started misunderstanding what it meant to have a woman who was designed to be a true helper, or when the woman herself even started misunderstanding what it means to be a true helper, then there the misconceptions began. I mean, right from the very beginning, even before the beginning that we know. Women empowerment is not a competition between men and women, which in today's context, it appears to be the case. Women empowerment is about how do we establish, you know, a society where the women like the men could work together as a team. I think when we talk of disrespect, when we talk of power, it's because today it looks like it's about domination. It looks like it's about subduing. But the maker at the beginning never ever designed man to subdue another man. No, he designed man to subdue the things around, to subdue the animals, to subdue the environment, to subdue in your area of gifting. But today, we are supposed to work together. But today it's a competition. So there is this misconception that when you're a woman who is looking for what they want to call gender equality, you have to become the man. That's not what we're talking about. In this context, we are saying that, or Gateway Africa is saying that, how can we work together? How can we ensure that a woman, being a woman with her peculiarities, with her particularities, with even her weaknesses and her strengths, can become the best version of herself, so that together with the man who is designed, they complement each other. The man who is designed to be the vision bearer, the man who is designed by the creator to be the leader, has a helper who adds value to him, and then he adds value to her. And that's why you see we said we are creating an unbiased narrative. We are creating a narrative that doesn't relegate the man, it doesn't relegate the woman. It puts both of them on what you want to call an equitable equity, more than maybe equality, because equality now says maybe the woman becomes a man. The woman can never be the man, and the man can never be the woman. But together, in their uniqueness, they can come together to work. So the misconception is maybe one of thinking that it's a quest for power, or it's a competition, or it's an exchange of roles, whereas it's people accepting the two sides, their roles, and then working together to add value to each other at all strata of the society. So the misconceptions I've just listed.
Yes, we have heard so many women sing it there, probably that what a man can do, a woman can do better. Where is this coming from? Is this also a part of women empowerment?
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Leo, for asking this question. Permit me differ a little bit from my brother over there. Now, we go back to ancient times. We never heard anything about women empowerment in the 17th centuries. And if you go back again, you will discover that when Jesus Christ himself existed, he himself selected 12 disciples, all men. There was no complaint in the society. Everybody continued accordingly. Going back again, he fed 5,000 men, including women and children. Women and children were left out, they were not counted. Jesus Christ did not correct that. Apostle Paul, who came after and wrote about the things of Jesus Christ, didn't correct that as a problem. The modern society sees this as a problem. Why? I call it a claim by women saying that decisions are not being able to be made by us. We are not given the opportunity to take decisions and take actions. And I ask the question, who is supposed to give you the right to make decisions as a woman? Who gave man the right to make decisions in the first place? The Bible says in the book of Genesis that God created man and woman, and all that he created was good, which means that women had capacity, capabilities as a man had. So who should give who power? The men took a decision, engaged, and became strong and fended for their families. The woman took her position to take care of the home. Nobody assigned each other. Remember, they were created at once. Each person had to take a decision to do what they could do best by their physical capabilities. So it was all good until this phenomenon started coming up to cause all of this disorder in the society.
Which phenomenon?
The phenomenon of women empowerment being sung all the way, everywhere as a challenge or as a problem. Now, I would say this as violently as I can say it. I don't know if children are watching, but you know, women have reduced men to sex machines. A man's real power is judged by his ability to satisfy a woman on the bed.
By the society today?
By the society today.
Yeah, you cannot satisfy a woman, they say,
no,
this one is
not a man. And now you see, a man's need for sex is unending, as long as I can put it. And if you want to judge a man based on that, you'll be losing a whole lot of things a man could do to better the society. So I really think that women should start looking on building themselves, building capacity to do these things. They should not stay at home and complain that we are not given opportunity to educate ourselves. Oh, they have to start taking the step to educating themselves, learning these skills and getting to take decisions as women for the benefit of the society, not for themselves. Because what we see now is the women are actually fighting for themselves. And they really don't care what happens to the man in the course of trying to dominate. They just want themselves to be okay.
How can you say they don't care about what happens to the man? Are they not the ones taking care of the home?
Wow, that is nice. I really like it because
they take care of your home, they take care of your kids, they do so many things.
That is if contextually we really go down into the homes and see what you can define as care of the home.
Okay.
Because nowadays it's changed.
Okay.
We talk of slave queens now who cannot really bring up a child. Why we have this cycle happening with families breaking down, single mothers managing children and living a life which is not worthy enough, what is passed on to the children will determine what will happen continuously in the future. So I think that women should decide to start thinking otherwise, not looking at the men as their threat, because it was supposed to be a teamwork, as my brother put it. Men are not the problem. We women are the problem. Look at what you can do. And I can quote an example. You see, in the Bible, women who did remarkable things were recorded.
Esther,
talking of Esther, Anna, these people were recorded because of the daring character they had. If they didn't do it, there were many women who were moving alongside with Jesus Christ. We never heard about them. So I think it's about capacity. And like the director said, if women can build capacity, no man would hold them back from taking decisions. They will just take decisions.
They will just take decisions. Is there a clear shift in paradigm when it comes to building a home since the inception of this whole talk about women empowerment, the way our mothers grew us up, and the way things are happening today? He talked about slave queens. Families are breaking down. Single mothers phenomenon on the rise. And can we relate that to the concept of women empowerment in any way?
Sure, Mr. Liu, by all means. And to properly address that issue, I would like us to take a little deep dive back into history. How did this whole thing of women empowerment come about in the first place? And what was it about? A lot of us sitting on this panel have read works from a writer called Charlotte Bronte.
Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre,
Yes,
Pride and
Yes.
Prejudice, beautiful. So Charlotte Bronte took on her real name only in the early 1800s, in the late 1700s, when she and her sister were prolific writers in the Renaissance, post-Renaissance era. She went by a certain name, Carol Bell, because she had to hide her identity as a woman. So that struggle for visibility is not because women didn't do things. Even way back then, there were powerful inventions that came through women. So women always had something to offer to society, but they were not allowed to be visible, to be as visible as a man, to pull as much attention as a man would, just because they are women. So that element of subjugation is what necessitated the movement for women empowerment. Now, if I should hinge on that fact, I would recoin the concept of the woman's empowerment in the African context as I would say the attempt or the effort by general society to make the woman as visible as the man for complementarity, not at the same time relegating the natural gender roles that were assigned by nature, let me emphasize that, on each of these genders. So coming down to the home, we cannot have effective homekeeping, effective upbringing of our children, an intelligent, I choose to call it an intelligent approach to the upbringing of our children and molding of society. Since society begins from the family unit in a ways, it cannot be effective when this particular woman who thinks she's empowered is only powered. She is power drunk. They're more obsessed with the power word in that empowerment clause. So they feel that the exposure they now have, especially with the advent of social media today, is for them to get the liberty to do as they want. So you will see the content that our female folk put out being so primitive, attending only to the very primitive and obscene needs of the society. And since also our society, for either by design or
we must also say that there are many of them who are also very decent.
Of course, of course. There is nothing absolutely bad. Yes. So, but we are looking at we are analyzing the situation globally. We're trying to make a global appraisal. Where are we as a continent, Africa? What state of development are we? We are still at the stage where people think being successful is having so much money. So anything that brings that money is honorable, including being obscene in the name of empowerment and being independent. And so those values are passed down from generation to generation, and it affects the upbringing. So what would I say now that an empowered African woman should be? It is the one who harnesses her visibility, the luxury of visibility that they didn't have before, to impact positive change, academically, politically, spiritually, physically, and financially, otherwise in all aspects of society life.
Okay, we hope that our sisters have gathered to watch this program across the globe, because it is also very, very timely and in context with what we are living. So many things may not be going right with our respective communities, and then we go chasing shadows, not knowing that it is because of the absence of what we are discussing out here today. Now, why is this concept of men's empowerment ignored, and why are the men themselves not talking about it?
Okay. Before responding to that, I first of all want to throw out my appreciation to every father, to every husband, to every brother who is struggling to ensure that their families have that which they require, to, you know, appreciate them for all that which they are doing. Those who are out there in the war zones, those who are on the roads for construction, we just want to appreciate them for that effort. You know, sometimes so much is being done by the men, but we hardly will talk about it. We hardly will take our time to say thank you for what you're doing, irrespective of all the other things that may not seem right. I think it's but right to take our time and look at what the men are doing and give a kudos to that. Now, we are in a society that is very judgmental. Imagine a scenario where a man is beaten up by his wife, and he comes and runs to you, Mr. Kum, and tells you, hey, my wife beats me up. How would you interpret that? How would you analyze this individual? In our society, would consider such a man to be a weakling who cannot handle his home, who cannot handle his own affairs. So I think that men not talking about the issue of their own empowerment is based on the fear of being prejudiced by society. What would society think of me? How would these people, would this person be able to maybe relate with me and give me the same form of respect as he would if such a situation were not brought to the limelight? In terms of men's empowerment as a whole, I think it's a subject that we need to look into, because if we go back to scripture, for those who read scripture, the man is head over the woman. Now, if you are to lead a woman, if you are to lead a home, if you are to raise children in the right standard, children that are psychologically, spiritually, mentally, morally, and otherwise prepared and sound for society, you must be empowered. If we go to school, we want to build capacity. We want to gather knowledge. So across all spheres, we would look at men's empowerment. Generally, we go to school because we want to get knowledge. But right now, in terms of empowerment as an objective activity, you know, we do so many seminars all around.
Assuming that manhood, yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Assuming that men already have all that it takes. But there are so many men who are lacking. Imagine a woman who aspires to be president, for example, and finds herself getting married to this man who is supposed to lead her through that journey. Where would he take the capacity to guide this woman on how to go about her vision, how to go about her aspirations, if the man himself is not empowered? So aside from being a man, aside from being naturally empowered with physical strength and otherwise, I think that it's not just important, but it's imperative that men should be empowered. We want to see conferences and seminars and summits organized to say that we're empowering the men spiritually, we're empowering the men financially, we're empowering the men emotionally. I think that this would go a long way to beef up their capacity, and it helps them to effectively play their roles, whether in their homes as fathers or as husbands, or especially for those in leadership circles. You don't want to be a president who does not have values, because I think it comes back down to the aspects of value impartation. We have totally lost it in Africa. Where are our values? Linking up men's empowerment and women empowerment is not enough to have capacity and go out there and we are talking about job creation, and we go out there and we are talking about economic empowerment, or we are talking about making money financially. But what has happened to our value system? Can we still have women who are respectful? Can we still have men who are honest?
Right. Yes. You are the director of Gateway Africa.
That's right.
Gateway Africa what inspired this thought? Because it is uncommon in our community. Where are you coming from with this reasoning?
Okay, about 9 years ago, I found myself in a volunteer experience with an NGO. And I think it's during that experience that I was exposed to the realities of what's happening in our community. We have so many young people who are striving to make better their lives. We have so many young people who are traveling across the Mediterranean because they want to seek greener pastures. And looking at the challenges that plague the continent across the social, the economic, the political, and other dimensions, I realized that many organizations are created for the wrong reason.
Okay.
I want to have an NGO because I saw my friend have an NGO. I want to have an orphanage because it's a way for me to make funds from funders. But we genuinely have missed out on having people who come into the space of civil society or development who do it from the heart because they want to solve a problem in society, because they want to meet a need in our society. And so Gateway Africa, in the course of doing her investigations, or personally at the time, in the course of analyzing and doing research of what's going on, I told myself there needs to be a way out for Africans to stop complaining and realize that they have all that it takes to become better. How can African heads, how can African hands, and the hearts cannot be missing because it's from the heart where the genuineness comes from. How can these people synergize to ensure that we can bring about a change that is not attached to some personal benefit? Gateway Africa has been running for almost 9 years, and by myself, I have single-handedly found the funds on how every activity has happened. That is to tell you the extent to which we would go because of the passion that we have to ensure that we can have change in society. So that is how this idea started, and we journeyed through to where we are right now.
Okay, we hope that the message is sinking in across the heads watching us this evening. Greetings, Mr. Liu. To empower a woman falls under risk because women want only the things that makes them happy. Any country that has a woman as president should check sense. For me, women should be powered by their husbands, not otherwise. Fred Fang is watching from Mutengene. Now, Abine, how misconceptions on women empowerment is damaging our culture, values, identity as an African people? Is it actually, are we moving away from the rails on which we were placed by our ancestors or our parents?
It's true that sometimes you don't want to say yes. You want to say well. Right. But the truth is, if you take time to watch the trend, it's easy to say yes. Okay. I'm not saying yes. I'm saying that it's easy to say yes if you look at a trend. Right. If you look at the way, this are Africa of respect. This is Africa of dignity. This is Africa of that sense of being a human being with your own worth. If you see the way it's going, then you think that a lot of misconceptions are leading to all these things. You see, as we've been discussing, women empowerment is not about giving the women power, because we already have. Yeah. It's about helping them to bring out what they have, giving visibility for them to use it sustainably for the right thing. And that's why Gateway Africa is now, it's not just about the women, it's also even more about the men. Because the reason why the women can't do a lot of these things is because the men who are, permit me to say, dominating in most of the leadership cycles have not allowed these women to really express themselves, whether we like it or not. But however, the proper meaning and understanding of women empowerment that's supposed to help Africa to keep its proper identity of decency, of not throwing obscene things out there, is what my brother there explained earlier. That the women too must be capable of taking charge, so that they don't give you an opportunity which you cannot maximize. Because they say if opportunity doesn't meet preparation, then it will not have any use. So that's why Gateway Africa, what we are saying is that it goes beyond just saying women empowerment to empowering the men to empower the women correctly. And that will help us to keep our sense of decency as Africans. That has always been where we are. But today, because many women have understood, because there are a lot of misconceptions around women empowerment. These women now take the power and use it wrongly. When they go for visibility, they expose the wrong things. Somebody even told, I don't know, it's like somebody fooled them that when you expose their body, that's when you're more beautiful. No, people run towards okrika more because it's cheap. But things that have more value, not many people go there. So if you expose your body and you become an influencer, for example, which is not part of African culture, sometimes I ask, like, but there are some clothes which you can easily take to a party. Why do you have to take it to church? That's not African. But it's because the misconception is that for you to feel empowered is that people need to be looking at you. What you need to be empowered, as he explained earlier, is putting out value to the society. And our African society, that of Ubuntu, has been about all of us, men or women, coming out to give the value that they carry. And that value must be built by you who carries the value. However, the men now come in, which I think unbiased narrative that we're preaching, is that, as you mentioned earlier, and I was touched by it. You said that a man doesn't need to say he's a man. There is a way that at home, you the man, there is an authority you come out without saying anything. By your sense of responsibility, by your sense of, in the night you're walking and you're laying hands, and you want to tell that your son or your daughter is following you behind. There is a respect that the wife gives you. Right? So if the man takes this position of the person to empower, because he's a leader, but he needs a helper. That's why when Esther was doing her amazing things, Mordecai was there to push her. Sometimes nobody mentions Mordecai, but Mordecai was there to push her. So there is a need for this working together, and that's why I say one of the key misconceptions is that it's a competition. It's not a competition. It's working together. And as somebody just said earlier in the message, no, the women need to be empowered because women have a special touch. Remember, the men are too objective sometimes. You need that soft touch of the woman to balance the equation. So today you want an African society where you have decent ladies who are not relegated only to the background, to wear long gowns, no, but to wear designer wears created by them, but also encouraged by their men who have assumed their position as true men and true leaders, and then those women come to help them to add more value to get that to the society. So I would say that the misconceptions is making us Africans to lose a lot of who we are and what we carry. Because Africa is the greatest continent. Moses said, God said people to Cameroon, but because God speaks too fast, Moses said Canaan. And of course, Cameroon is a trigger. If you look at Africa's map, the trigger for transformation, for Africa now to exploit the rest of the world. So Africa has to keep that identity of, women are not girls. Mr. Leo, there's that misconception. And females are not women. There are a lot of females, like the ones out there exposing their bodies, they are not women. Just like there are many men who are not men, they are males. And until that is understood, then this issue of women empowerment will continue having this problem. So for us to keep our identity as Africans, the true identity, that of Ubuntu, that of adding value, that of working together for the betterment of the society, as Gateway Africa is saying, the men come, they empower themselves, very important as the leaders, because nobody's born a leader, you only have the traits. The women come as helpers, empower themselves too, as he said, and then together they unite now to add more value to the society and then keep our true identity and our good cultures.
Yes, what are some of those values? I want you to pinpoint some of them that are being eroded by our misunderstanding of the concept of women empowerment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. I am an African and I'm proud to handle this. Looking at the application of this terminology, remember, Africa is heterogeneous. It is mixed with different cultures. The West is more homogeneous. Now, as a conflict expert, I understand that this has been one of the crux for conflicts in our society. The fact that we are living in a heterogeneous society, yet we are trying to implement policies from a homogeneous society. This already, it's a direct attack on our culture and our values. As Africans, a lot of things have been eroded away so far. My sister was talking about respect, basic respect. In the home, our children not beating up their parents today, things we never ever heard of. Women not killing their husbands, poisoning their husbands out of anger. Women not being the first to go and sign off for a divorce. I think a lot of things have really played our cultural values down. Imagine The issue of dowry, it's a very sensitive context, because women are using the fact that a man has to pay her dowry as a point to say that we are being bought over, and that is why we are being treated the way we are treated. But this is an African tradition that has existed over time, and it had never been a problem. Are we not in a society today wherein parents cannot more mentor their children because time for work has taken away time for mentorship? A mother comes back in the evening because of the pressure of life to make money. They cannot more take the books of their children and look at it again and mark it. They cannot check to see which friend is moving with my child. They cannot look into their school bags to say who bought you a phone. These are basic things that every father, mother did in the days past. And there was no trouble. Have we not gotten to a point where if a child does not buy a particular shoe, the girl does not want to go to school again? Have we not gotten to a point where we are abandoning education, creative education, and focusing on some form of generalized education that does not attain to the needs of our society? Yes, because if you look at the reality, you see children now carrying bigger bags than the days we ever went to school. Yet, you look at the productivity level is more shallow. Something is missing. Whereas the children in the days past, while they were going to school, they attached skills. They started learning. The father would put them to become carpenters, to learn engineering, mechanic, and so on. And these guys understood things in a deeper level. It helped them to be able to sustain themselves. And you see, this issue of self-esteem was high. Self-esteem came from the abilities these people had. I am a teller, I am a student. It gave me self-esteem. I could not be ashamed of myself as a teller looking at my friend who is a mechanic. No. So these people could take care of themselves. Today, these things are not there. The children are just going to school and they are looking forward to some job and they finish and these things are not there and they are ashamed of themselves. And this shame is what has caused them to be able to start running away from their realities and now embracing the culture that hides their reality. Why would you want to dress in a particular way going to a particular occasion where you are or who you are not that person? For example, our women are now flaunting the space with I must buy Louis Vuitton, I must buy Dolce and Gabbana, I must buy Gucci and so on. If they don't have it, a woman says, if you don't give me money for human hair, what happened to the low cuts, which made our women so beautiful in the days past? So these are some of these things that are making our society to become more competitive than collaborative. And anytime a society becomes competitive within itself, there's bound to be disorder.
There's bound to be disorder. Yes, when you look at the African setting that we had in the past, some persons will say that, okay, our mothers in the past were not actually enjoying life because, okay, they were not empowered, they were not civilized, they were clamped down on by this male dominance. And are we better off today?
Well, I think that's a similar question to the one my brother Ayah almost evaded technically. I sometimes like to present myself as a realist.
Okay.
So I try to look at both sides of the coin with as little bias as possible.
Okay.
Are we better off as an African society, given the influences of some of these Western values, if I may call them so, as such as women empowerment? Yes or no? That's my answer. So, how do I say yes? It's true, I think I like the version of my mother who can sit in for my father's business in his absence at all levels, executive, remote, and handle it so well, coming with the female finesse that my brother was talking about. And indirectly, I'm actually telling you the story of my life. Yes. My mom is such a person, and I give a big shout out for her. Back in the day, when we were the hyper-patriarchal society, that wouldn't be possible, and my family would have crumbled a long time ago. So in that regard, I think women empowerment has done something for us there. That exposure, the platform that it has provided for our mothers, our women, is helping, is bringing in this energy into the synergy equation that we wouldn't be able to harness before now. So how is it a no? It is a no because, like every form of human idea, any human idea or endeavor, there is the tendency for metamorphosis. It morphs into other forms. That's why even we talk of Christianity today, which is one of this, maybe the strongest human movement of all time. It is now split into uncountable different factions and ideologies. It's the same thing with the women empowerment we are talking about. We have extremist groups and extremist ideals that have corrupted the fulcrum, or the essential, the central idea behind the women's empowerment, which was just to allow the woman be as expressive as the man for a greater output society, to drive society faster forward. So in that sense now, what has it done in the African society? It has mounted this false pressure, first of all, on the woman to want to be like the man. And then, since we haven't really attained that level of self-actualization and self-realization that makes us, that permits us to make absolute value judgment over certain things, we haven't had our priorities right on a global perspective. We fall for these cheap gimmicks that we see on TV. We fall for certain globalist hidden agendas that destroy a lot of things in our society, in our African society, the Ubuntu-driven society. One of them, chiefly the one that makes me cry at night, is the family unit. Because of this friction that woman power, rather than women empowerment, has brought between the natural head of the home and the woman, or the natural head of the society and the woman, this false friction that exists. The Ubuntu is broken down, the togetherness. Okay, the Ubuntu is broken down. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Desmond is writing from Tico. Women empowerment has led to more harm than good. I think that's why we have more broken homes today. We should go back to the past. Okay, women should go back to the past. This one says, good evening, Mr. Liu. Greet the sister for me. Can you help me with her number? Okay, I will send you her number in the course of the program. Those of you requesting for her number, write me on WhatsApp. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Women need to be empowered to bring out the best in them and not to overpower men. The fight is not against men. Women also need to stop fighting women. The fight is to improve on themselves and not to bring others down. Terence is writing from Gaundal. Now, we're talking about women empowerment, and we say in the past our parents did almost everything, because you gave an illustration where you would prefer a society where women would absolutely sit in for your parent, for your father, in so many decisions. But some of us grew in the villages, and I don't know how many of you, but if you were to go back memory lane, you will discover that most of the families in our villages were actually taken care of by the mothers, because most fathers did not have as much resources. Financially, most children were sent to school by their mothers because they were financially more buoyant than the men. Why don't we look at it from that perspective? And everybody is talking about the fact that the men were dominating. Ask 80% of Africans. They will tell you that they are who they are today because of their mothers. Why don't we highlight that aspect of women?
Okay,
because
that's...
every day is complaint. Yeah. Our mothers actually took care of us. Why don't we say that?
Okay, thank you so very much, Mr. Liu. That's a very interesting one.
Very interesting.
I come from a family where I watched both my mom and dad work in partnership to ensure that they gave their children the right values that were necessary for their walk in life. I won't use that single experience to generalize what other people's experiences may have been. But back then, our mothers were not exposed, or our mothers and fathers were not exposed to the current internet, for example, that we have right now. Imagine the number of hours that today's woman and man, I would not focus on the woman here, that both genders spend on the internet, chatting with people they have never met and people they may never meet. Going back in the days, our parents had more time for us. Our mothers had more time to sit down, analyze what's going on, and know what we even needed. Now we understand that in the African society, it's not just marriage, it's not just about the man and the woman. Marriage is about both families. We have situations where the families of some of these women played a vital role in ensuring that they supported that marriage or they supported that home because they wanted to see their children and grandchildren succeed. So this is coming from women, now in the case of the mothers, who were passionate, who still had the genuine love to ensure that their children could grow. My mom would run a provision store. My mom would work on the farm. My mom would come and do little things because...
Why are women not... Why do they give the impression today that they are undervaluing all of these things?
Well, I think that time is fast passing. And we cannot compare today's society to the experiences our parents had. Most of our parents back in the days didn't have access to education, at least to some level. So when we want to weigh what today's reality is with what happened back then, we should factor in what changes happened within the evolution and how these things have affected the current situation. Now, I think now it's not about the time for us to continue complaining about whether women are talking about the men dominating them or that the women are taking advantage. But Gateway Africa, through this program, what is our theme? We are deconstructing the misconceptions. Now, the reality exists. The problem is on the ground. It's not about going to dig more and more. But now, we say men and women in synergy, in harmony, in oneness, togetherness, reconstruct an approach and a solution to ensuring that we can rewrite a fresh narrative that fits into Africa's content. So I think what we should be looking at right now is women out there, men out there, this is our reality. So what do we do? How do we move forward? What can we change? What can we adjust to ensure that we no longer find ourselves in a place where the home is breaking? Now, we are centered a lot on the home because it is the key central unit from where everything that happens in society comes from. So if we get it wrong in the home, we are only going to have slave queens transferring wrong values into children, and then we have more drug addicts, we have more criminals, we have more prostitutes, or we have more young girls who think that having a child is destroying their form. That is madness. We have to come to the place where we are true to the values of hospitality. How many women are still hospitable? How many young girls, for example, or even young boys sit in the room and an elderly person walks in and you wake up and give them the seat? We are so filled with power that we have lost the values that our forefathers transferred to us, and if we don't correct it now, then we are going down the drain.
But what you're citing, are these not the direct influence of the evolution that you're talking about? Are we not running away from who we are, embracing a culture where a woman equates themselves? And finally, we find ourselves in the middle of the sea, because we are already away, we have run away from our yes, from our roots, and we are embracing a culture that is also not accepting us, leaving us in the middle. We are becoming what they call cultural mulattoes. Yes, we are neither them nor our original persons.
Thank you very much. That is exactly one of the greatest challenges we are having. We are importing cultures from other areas that do not accept us, and we are compelling ourselves to learn them and force them down on our generation. You know, there's a term which we are technically escaping. We are not wanting to use it. We are being nice. That term, democracy. That term, democracy, has changed a lot of things in our society. Now, you see, the fact that they say democracy is power to the people, for the people, by the people. The women got up and say, hey, we are not part of this decision making. Why are we not part? Okay, get us involved. And now, the democracy has come and penetrated into every sector of life, wherein everybody has a speech. And forgetting to understand that there is a place for tolerance in your speech, they are now using that as power. Cultures. Before, it was just natural that men gather under the tree and they share ideas, and then they come and meet their wives and say, this is what the village council decided, and it stands and everybody is comfortable. There wasn't a problem. Now, this is not cancelling the fact that the input of women wasn't there. Like you mentioned, these are the people who stay back at home with the children. They are the ones who are imbibing all the character you see the child coming up with. But where they go wrong is if they have a conflict with their husbands, the conflict is unconsciously transferred into the child. And that child carries it. It's a vicious circle. It starts going down and the society keeps on breaking. Now, you see, I just think that every woman has her time. It's just that they have not seen it. I believe that at early stages of marriage or homes or society, women are simply going through a training to come and take over eventually, because there's always that time. We understand that nature has its way of playing the game, but a woman stays in the house with the husband is doing the things, he's doing the leadership which he's supposed to do, which is God-given. And the woman is learning from that process. And that is why my brother says the mother there can completely handle everything the dad can do. That is a wonderful thing, that she has learned so much that she can squarely fit into the shoe of the father. This is what we don't have. The women are impatient. Some women are impatient to actually go through the process of training. Remember, in our cultural context, men would definitely want to marry a woman younger than them, even though there is a case for the reverse. But now, if they marry a woman who is younger, there will be a time where the man becomes tired and the woman champions the cause. And that is even the most sensitive part of the family, where the children are big. So I think we should even look at women and praise them for this part of leadership they are carrying, because when the men are incapable, the women are capable to do it. So where is the struggle? There is a time for everyone to emerge. I think one of the greatest challenges also that the men are facing nowadays is the problem of identity. Men are struggling to identify who they really are because of some of these misconceptions which we have embraced. A man is struggling to find out himself. He does not really understand his purpose. Why was I created? And then in the midst of that struggle to understand, he's receiving all the pressure from the woman to be like this, whereas the man was supposed to be the other way. Maybe the man was called up to be something else, but the woman wants you to be like this, and now uses the people who have made it in that particular direction as her justification to why you must be like this. And now it pushes a man to struggle within himself. Most of the times they will not voice it. When a man goes down and is not capable of handling issues, his fear is not his incapability. His fear is, if I express my incapability to my wife, he will look upon me and he will use it one day to downplay me. So the guy struggles with it within himself. I think this is where men have to start understanding that there is a difference between being a man and a male. Like my brother said, they are men. Dr. Miles Monroe says, a male is not a male man. A man undergoes development, personal development, and is deliberate, is intentional.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. You are right. My mother was a mother and father in the house. She bought food, worked farm, and sell gari, educated all of her children alone till advanced level. Yes, we need to celebrate our mothers for that, and because increasingly we are hiding the wonderful things that our mothers did in the past, saying that okay, they did nothing, and that the men, we're giving so much credit to to the fathers. Yes. Well, Mr. Liu, I think that today, both in churches and secularly, it is been taught that a woman is a prize for a man, so the women lack any sense of responsibility both in a relationship and in marriages, which our mothers were conscious of their responsibility. Another factor is the need for more money, no time to train children. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Jarvis from Moyuka. I like the program. For me, women should be given power. But the Bible is said women should not teach or be given the head over men. Isn't it paradoxical? Isn't it paradoxical that now we claim that women empowerment, women are more enlightened? This theory of women empowerment has been there for decades now. But look at the roles that women are increasingly taking, especially our slave queens. They go to university and what they want is Abine as a boyfriend or a husband. You have to buy iPhone, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and they depend entirely on you. You are sent to the university. After graduation, you are looking for the richest guy around town.
Right.
Who is going to employ you, because it's no longer marriage, because he is taking over every responsibility, compared to the women who were considered not empowered, downtrodden, who were conscious that I am married to this man. They actually did not depend on the men, because they knew that the survival, the success of their children depended on them. Their beauty and everything, that is, who I don't know whether these ladies today are more empowered than our mothers who were conscious and judging by what they did.
Well, Mr. Liu, as funny as that may sound, I think it actually makes up for where I think this conversation should be going. That is a sad reality where we find ourselves in. And like I said before, I consider it would be a bit parochial, but narrow-minded of us to want to think that we can throw away everything that is not from Africa. No society evolves like that. But what we do is we should be reasonable enough, intelligent enough to cherry pick what works for us and throw away what doesn't. That is why we are having this conversation. That's what Gateway is looking at. What elements of this women's empowerment would help Africa to propel itself towards the path of development?
Which one works in context?
In the context of Africa, where are we? What do we need to do? Where are we going? Who do we need on board? Well, you made a very powerful point before when you said in many African societies, where the responsibility to cater and even to the point of provision for the younger ones in the family was left mostly, if not entirely, to the women folk.
Yes, the women took that responsibility, but today it's no longer the case.
Yes, that is very apt. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fact that you brought that up. It only tells us that, sincerely speaking, we've always been a more advanced society than the people we are trying to copy from.
So we are rushing to a fake life.
Exactly.
We're running away from the original. Yeah.
Exactly. So that is where we find ourselves. Our women have always had a strong positive impact on our societies. Where I come from Kupem Manenguba. If I can count 10 prosperous and colossal projects that saw the light of day in all of that territory, 80% of them would have been championed by women. So when we said the woman was relegated, we are talking in the context of the modern society, most especially, not entirely, because even back then there were limits that a woman had, which were by and large subjugative. For example, even today, I cannot sit in a hall and the woman grabs the gizzard from a healthy cock and eats in my presence, I will curse her. that I think those are some of the things we inherited. So keeping this into perspective, like I always say, where should we go with this? The situation where we find ourselves in, where should we go with it? What should we do with the exposure? I keep emphasizing on that word. What should we do with the exposure that the woman has attained through this women emancipation theory of a thing? What should we do with the power of the social media, which we are gifted with today? The woman should have more than her body, because the reactions we have on social media are just a reflection of where our development index or our key performance indicators truly lie as a developing race. We are still at the bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy pyramid of needs. We are still driven by the essential primitive instincts of survival and the pursuit of happiness. So I think the woman should position herself. We quoted, my people quoted wonderful examples from the Bible. They should position themselves. That power is not about giving power to women. I heard someone sent a reaction that more power should be given to women. It's not about giving power to women. Women have power.
Exactly.
They have power.
They just need to exercise it.
They just need to exercise it, get productive, and then their value shoots up. It's just like a football player in the professional league, say the Premier League. We are sorry with what's happening with one of my favorites right now, Eden Hazard. He's valued at under 5 million now, but that's someone who was well above 150 million. The reason is simple: he's no longer productive. So our women, I'm sorry to say, are struggling with the concept of empowerment and getting bitter and imbibing dangerous forms of women empowerment, in quotes, because they don't have intrinsic value. Most of them, they don't come with intrinsic value to the table. They don't have tools to impact positive change. We have real problems in Africa: education, water, famine, governance. Women, we have heard of so many women in those who have occupied those places in more advanced societies and driven positive change, radical change, and change the paradigm for that society, and for which they get remembered for eternity. So we should move from this perspective of valorizing things rather than valorizing legacy.
Okay, I'll take one or two. And we move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Liu, for this program. I'm learning so much this evening. Now, when we say we are looking at a advanced woman who cries from morning to night about emancipation, who says we want women equality, gender equality, and projecting, what are they projecting off what they learned from their mothers in this whole fight?
Okay. That's a very interesting subject, but before getting to that, I would like to bring our attention to something. A few days ago, I was going through Facebook and I found a picture of this beautiful African woman naked in her pregnancy, in the name of photo shoots.
Yes, I've seen that.
We have come to the place where when we talk about giving women visibility about what? What are you projecting? Since when in African culture do we do baby shower before a baby is born? Since when in African culture is it normal for an African woman to stand naked, take a photo, and share with the world in the name of following the trends? Women are crying about emancipation. I will not also go without saying that so many women out there are doing a great deal of work. They are giving in hours to ensure that their homes are in order. They are giving in hours to ensure that they can raise children properly. But aside from that, they are going the extra mile to ensure that they are contributing their positive quota in ensuring that nation building and its goals can be attained. Now, when we talk about this emancipation, how do we go about it? Who are we crying it out to? Because at the end of the day, we have summits, we have conferences, there are meetings happening every day. At the end of the day, what happens? We come back to the problem of implementation. We don't just want to be at the point where we sit on decision-making tables and we make noise. But the question is, what action should be taken now? Emancipation from what and from whom? There's a question, who disempowered women? You can only disempower yourself. Permit me say, and sorry if it hurts anybody, we have a lot of lazy women out there. Young girls sit and expect somebody will buy you human hair for 300,000. They will buy you an iPhone. What are you bringing to the table? I think it's also about a matter of having women who are ready to give. I think this concept of giving is what differentiates our today's women from our mothers. Our mothers were ready to give out selflessly and endlessly. They would give out time, they would give out love.
No, the modern woman would say they were just enduring. They were not enjoying.
Exactly. They will say they are enduring, and we find ourselves today, and the woman will say, no, I'm in this relationship for wrong reasons. This man is the director of this. If I'm with him, I can have this, I can access this, and I can travel the world. What stops us from being patient and constructively taking out time to evaluate ourselves and ask ourselves, where are we really going to with this life? It's not enough to go to the university, have a degree, and you come out, and then what next? You want a white-collar job with 400,000 francs salary. Who would give you an English nation? So we have to come to that place where we are realistic. And that's why Gateway Africa came up with the project of the Africa Develop 2025, because at the end of the day, for us, it's about Africa. We are not ignoring the rest of the world and the role they play in this whole process. But we are Africans, and we should stand for defending our identity first. Through the Africa Develop projects, we are setting up what we call the Rewoke. The Rewoke is a re-inventory academy for youth and women change makers. Why women? Why did we have to emphasize on women? Because they are the rite of passage. True women, children are born into the world. If these women are not fixed, if we don't deconstruct the wrong mindsets our women have, my sisters out there have, it means that we're going to have women who are not qualified to be mothers. Giving birth to a child doesn't make you a mother. Motherhood goes beyond getting pregnant and carrying a baby for 9 months, pushing the baby, and we have women who throw these children in dustbins. That's because they've come out of that place where they could give out as our mothers back in the day. Our mothers gave and gave and gave. Their source of giving was unending. It had no stopping point. So through the Africa Develop, we want to deconstruct mindsets. It's not just limited to the aspect of women empowerment, but the aspect of job creation, because we have young people who just believe that it is the government's responsibility to give them jobs. It is our responsibility as a people to play our part. No tiny drop of water thinks is responsible for the flood. If you're irresponsible with your life, if you're irresponsible with how you spend money, then it means in your quarter, you're contributing to the problem of the nation and the continent. So this emancipation should not just be a subject we talk about, but it should be something that we concretely take out time and look into ourselves. Before talking to the next person, take out time and evaluate from within you what is not going right and how can I be a part of it.
Okay.
Exactly.
Hello, Mr. Leo. Good evening, and good evening to everyone. Men and women have equal rights and opportunity. You cannot be complaining in this 21st century. The president of Tanzania is a woman. Let women do their things. What do they want is to control the home and suppress the men. The young, talented lady speaking is voicing her opinion. Women should just go more further with their education and achieve. Can you stop calling, please? And achieve their dreams. Maybe it is because they don't have the means to succeed. Yes, just keep pushing. You're going to succeed, I'm sure. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I think women that fight for rights are because they are lazy and have nothing to do. Yes. Abine, let us end. Yes, we are going to take one last round before we close for today. What you say you are reconstructing, you are deconstructing and reconstructing a fresh, unbiased narrative. What is the narrative that you are telling the young men and the young women watching us this night?
I love the fact that you said the young men and the young women, because it brings that synergy. And before that, I just want to say that, you know, one of the things which we might want to think about when we talk about our mothers and what they experienced, could they just have sacrificed a little too much? Maybe we need to think about that. Could they, at that time, when they were doing so much and giving so much, could it be that maybe when she was doing all of that and a man spent all of his time at the bar with his friends, and then he comes home and doesn't even appreciate what she has done? Could that actually be the problem? Maybe we should think about it. Maybe they felt that they needed a little bit more acknowledgement, concern, visibility for the enormous things that they did. Maybe the actual meaning of women empowerment for our mothers that time was recognition, was appreciation.
But the activists themselves, are they showcasing, are they highlighting?
That's where the misconception. That's where the misconception comes.
That women have,
That's where the misconception comes, and that brings us in context of maybe the question we have today. That we need to deconstruct these misconceptions. These misconceptions of the women have power already. They have a lot of it. As a matter of fact,
they did it already.
As a matter of fact, they said most decisions are made in the bedroom. That's right. because she changes his mind if she knows how to be a proper woman.
That's right.
How to be humble. How to get him to see her perspective while respecting him as a man. I think that's what the problem is. The problem today is that the woman thinks, or some women think, that those who have the misconception think that they need to become the man, or they need to control the man, or they need to subdue the man. That's simply not possible. And that's why the man's problem today is that no, we are the men, and we should remain the men. However, the women too, like thinking about those days, are saying that no, but we too need some acknowledgement. We too would wonder when we stay home. No, to be a mother is 26 on 24 hours.
Right.
I mean, for them to take care of those kids. I mean, when I'm with my daughter, man, sometimes I just say, go to your mother, I'm going to work. I'm not going to work. I want to go and rest, because they have a lot to do. And so there are a lot of misconceptions today. And that's why we believe that there is a need to go back to the mindset, because everything happens at the level of the mindset. That's why when we go to the rewoke, that's a primary thing that we look at as far as Gateway Africa is concerned and Africa Development 2025 is concerned. That you want to go back to the mindset, and there is a wrong mindset of entitlement. That's why people think that they should be buying a human hair for 200,000. It's a mindset of entitlement. The youth who doesn't want to try at his or her own from his or her own end to make effort to add value to the society, things that the government owes him or her something, the mindset of entitlement. And that's why we need to deconstruct. We need to look at that mindset and say, okay, these are the issues we have with this mindset, and then rebuild something new. A mindset of people who know that women empowerment is not about me taking advantage of other people. It's not about me eating meat and mimbo and drinking Malta and loving all the M's. No, it's about me taking control and taking ownership and looking at what my mothers did in those days and say, okay, in the context of today, which is different from those days, how can I bring value? Entrepreneurship, as JBA said, is adding value. Is moving something from a place where there's little value to a place where that thing has high value. And so it's about value addition. And what we are doing today, creating an unbiased narrative, is one where the women come with their value. You know, because the misconception which we are trying to deconstruct is that you come with nothing to the table, you come for a negotiation and you have nothing to offer. And so how do they respect you in that negotiation? So the women come with their value which they have built, women empower, but the men too empower themselves to be even better leaders, because they are already leaders. But as I said, you are not born a leader, you build into that man who also helps the woman. And so together, remember, the bottom line, Gateway Africa's bottom line is that there should be synergy. But in that synergy, let nobody lose his identity, and let Africa not lose its culture, and let the women continue to be those amazing women who have done those amazing things. But the difference now is that a man will not leave after a glass with his friends and come and doesn't appreciate that woman. No, he will say, oh my God, you are amazing. And together now they can communicate, and they can collaborate, and they can work together as a team. So that's what we are deconstructing, those misconceptions, the wrong mindset, and then we are building something new which will lead to more sustainable development in Africa.
Okay, good evening, sir. Please, can I have the ladies' number in the studio? Okay, I will send you the number. Thank you for participating. This one says, this is because women that were humble like our mothers were humble, and for this reason they were well respected by their husbands. Bertrand is writing from Bamenda because the way they carried themselves, they were better respected by their husbands. Yes, how do we reconstruct and change the narrative?
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu, and thank you, Bertrand, for a wonderful question you've asked. You know, I will always go back to the book of order, the Bible, which says that women, submit yourself. The aspect of women submitting themselves didn't mean that they were not having potential. It doesn't mean that the woman is not intelligent. It doesn't mean that the woman cannot take decision. It just means that when the man is getting upsetted, a woman can. The woman is the soft touch of the family. They can chill down and they leave the man to reset, and then they come back in a nicer way. They know how to do these things. And you see, most of the times, we men have overreacted. Sometimes, after all the day's job of a woman trying to prepare you something, doing you food and all that, and a man comes back home, maybe after eating in one nice restaurant at the job site, and finds what the wife has prepared not very appealing, probably because the woman did not have enough. And then he comes and sits on the table and declines the food, and then delve into some level of provocation or insultive talk, and then abandons the food there and walks to the room and sleep off. Now, this will set anger. Anger leads to frustration. This frustration can always become a crisis in the family. And I think that women need to have more attention. Women need to have more appreciation by their men over basic things. Because from my understanding, within the family, there are very basic things that get the man upset. They are not very mighty things. They are not jobs he has lost or he has lost in the office, or they are not his business. Coming home, just a little thing, error the wife would make, the man will react. So sometimes we are pleading with the men to also consider that these women have a burden on their shoulder. Looking after these kids is not an easy job. It is very complex. And likewise, women ought to not carry the burden that is on their shoulder and bring forth a kind of reaction that will dishonor the man and then trigger the man into reaction or negative anger that will cause a fight, and then the woman says, I am being maltreated, there's violence on me, they are carrying out this and that, which is the complaint we are hearing everywhere. I think that a righteous woman, a true woman of value, an African woman, is that woman who submits. And every time you submit, the rest assured, as hard as a man can be, there is some level of calmness that will set upon him. In saying this, I plead that as a woman, learn the strategy, understand your man, learn to interpret his reactions, facial expressions, and then learn to submit yourself. It's just simple. Submission takes nothing away from you. Rather, it adds value because the man respects you after finding out that he shouted at you and you didn't say a word. You move into your room, you lay on your bed, you provide everything he needed still. Got him water, he took his bath, and then you still came back and rested. You didn't offer a word, you didn't react to his formal actions. And now the man gets up in the morning looking at you, preparing his breakfast again. No matter how hard that man is, there is some level of, it's a progressive change that happens. It may not happen immediately as the woman would want, but progressively the man would come down. And then the approach would differ. And that is how unison happens. That is how collaboration happens in a family. There is no society or no family that wouldn't have conflicts. Conflicts are bound to happen by the very creation. There must be conflicts in every society, every family, but how you approach that conflict is what maintains a calm within every family.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Your choice of the topic is just one time. Our society is breaking every day since when partial colonialism came in, using the women. Whoever considered women doing agricultural activities as not working or supportive was a devil to African economy. We are depending on from Europe because our women are abandoning agriculture in search of rich men, which doesn't exist. Men no longer buy and give farms to women now, completely relegating to less economic competitive to reality. What have men emancipation union have not been created to, okay, you're asking why men emancipation union have not been created to empower the men to have a positive change. Felix is writing from Bamenda, but I'm sure you raised that issue. It's just that we don't have enough time. We would have discussed it again. Women think all the men want is sex, but for me, you that women that think like that means sex is all you can offer, okay, to any man. Okay, we should look beyond what we can give to a relationship than sex. If all you can do is sex, then your value is not much. Mr. Liu, politics has polluted the world. Politicians know that women are more than men, so flirting or supporting them, that they are suppressed by men, they will have their votes. Today, women talk about having equal opportunities as men. The question is, did a woman form a party, won the elections, and she was refused to be head of state? What are they complaining for? Notable Ngumba is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Notable Ngumba. Thanks for the educative program, Mr. Leo. Please, for the lady's number. Okay, I'm writing from Bamenda. Neba is writing from Bamenda. Yes, what are you telling our mothers who may be looking with so much regret at what is happening in the society? Their era was golden. Yes, because it was honorable to say my mother is around. You saw our mothers visiting their sisters. But how do we even salvage the situation? Judging by, they call it women's right now.
Women's rights.
Women's right.
Feminism.
Yes.
Feminism.
Yeah, feminism.
Okay. Well, I'm happy just by looking at this panel. I think the composition of this panel answers a lot of the questions we are on and on about now, which I consider irrelevant. All of these men sitting around this table were summoned by this one woman who is sitting on the other side of the table. And that speaks volumes itself. To me, Africa's problem of women's emancipation and empowerment has been lessened to a negligible degree. And so, what I would say to that, my mother, is that she should not fret. She should be comforted, because there is hope. We can see a hope in human form. We can see a light at the end of the tunnel. As long as conversations like these keep going out there, the subconscious would be awakened, and eventually there would be a paradigm shift. We would learn to solve our real problems as an African people. The woman would learn to maintain the harmony of society by avoiding areas of unnecessary friction. That is where the real problem is now when we talk of misconceptions. Areas of unnecessary friction, like power mongering, has taken center stage. The quest for material gain, excessive material gain, the kind of money that we don't even need, has taken center stage, and it's causing a friction and in the social cohesion of our society, and thereby slowing us down as a people on our path to development. When our women eventually get busy, I mean globally speaking, because I do not mean to disrespect the many women I can enumerate here now who are pumping a lot of energy into the development of our continent already. Once on a global scale, the woman gets engaged productively and thinking of ways to bring value, to add value to our society that will help our hunger, hold our governments to account, help our education systems, teach our children, mold the family, concentrate on real valued endeavors like family upbringing, which is one way we were badly hit by all of this, right? To grow children who are worthy of the name as Africans. We shall have fewer and fewer of these conversations about women complaining and men actually suffering the brunt of a reverse action, which is actually right now trying to send the man to the back, throw the man at the back seat of the bus.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I believe women empowerment and gender equality are two concepts that are always misplaced. Women should try to know the difference and also to only select what works well in our African context. I'd love to have the contact for the lady from Gateway Africa. Luke Abel is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Luke. Hello, Mr. Liu. I enjoy our young lady of value and need her leadership to be beneficiary to my Real Women and Widows Association. Please, I would like to have not only the number of the real lady, but also the men too. Please, I am Reverend Pastor Maxwell. Okay, I'll send you the lady's number. From her, you will get the numbers of the rest. Many women today, especially the majority of those who are celebrating Women's Day, when you look at the way they celebrate, do they actually understand what they're celebrating? Do they master the concept of women empowerment, or they just see the way the leaders are articulating without proper explanation, especially putting them into context, yet they just go celebrating?
Okay.
Do they really know what women, we're talking about women empowerment and emancipation is all about? Do our many women who are out there, do they really know this?
I would say yes, and I would say no. Before getting to that, there is something I've observed in most homes. A man, for example, will tell his wife, you can't go to this event. And not necessarily because he doesn't want you to go to that event. Men have a way of testing their women. And you find a woman who just says, who does he think he is? I must attend this Women's Day this year. I must sew my own kaba and go there. And now this woman leaves and goes out of excitement. I think the aspect of Women's Day in Cameroon, let me bring it to our own real scenario, has little to do with actually the theme or the objectives of which they are going out for. If you ask some of these women on the street who step out on the Women's Day that just passed, how many of them understand why the theme that was selected was selected? How many of them have been able to make some changes in that direction? I can bet you that would have less than 20%. It's about taking pictures and posting on social media. It's Women's Day. I had my own dress. I did my own posting. I was there, and the day is gone. And if you ask them, there is nothing tangible that they can actually present. I've watched my parents in a marriage of slightly over 3 decades. Never for once have I seen my dad raise his voice at my mom, or have my mom even think of raising her voice at my father. Countless times I return from school and I meet my dad in the kitchen preparing comfort. Why am I saying this? Most of our women are at this place where they have little knowledge on how to manage temper. We talk a lot, women, one sentence and we've responded 10,000 things. And this is some of the reasons why I'm now getting into another subject of violence. This is part of what brings us into some of the reasons why women are carrying this subject of human rights and gender equality. When you provoke a situation, not every man has what it takes to reserve and hold his emotions within. And so we pretend to the world that we are the victim. But if we have to do research to understand what happened before we found ourselves in this situation, not saying that it's a justification for the action of men to hit women, but saying that if we can come to a place where we start doing trainings on emotional management, anger management, handling our temperaments, knowing when to speak, it's not every situation where we find ourselves having to respond. So coming back to the issue of Women's Day, I think most of the women do not have an idea what they are doing. This is just following the trends. It's like a new dress was released and everybody wants to, you know, show that they have to, I was able to get a piece of it. So that is how I look at what women's empowerment and Women's Day celebration and such events.
Okay, we are out of time, 5 minutes out, we have to end. Yeah, thank you for coming, all of you, and educating our audience. Very, very appreciative by the messages that they are sending. Many are really requesting to have your numbers. We hope that, please, most of you asking for the numbers, make the request through WhatsApp so that I can share. Mr. Masanga Aka, the eyes of his father, you need to know that women are never satisfied. These persons, when given power, they can turn every man on their way to slave. So women should just remain in the kitchen. Divine Chinedu is writing from from Kumba. No, Divine, no. Yeah, we should not do that. I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
And also to you.
Grateful, excited.
I hope to have you very shortly again on the platform.
Okay, thank you very much. It would be a pleasure.
And are you guys in Douala?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
in Douala.
Yeah.
Okay. You're also in Douala?
Yes, I'm also in Douala.
You're going to Kenya, Uganda?
Yeah, we leave for Uganda in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yes, we leave for Uganda in 2 weeks.
Okay. We are very happy to have had you guys this evening.
Tomorrow.
Okay. Good evening to you all in the studio. It's Tandong from Yaoundé about the topic. Let us go back to the Bible. In Genesis, when Eve gave Adam the fruit, God did not ask Eve why she ate the food, but God asked Adam instead, because he was the head. So we end at that juncture. We are thanking all of you who took time off to watch this edition of the program. I'm sure we're going to be having them again because they have a lot to pour and turn things around our communities. Eli and Desmond, thank you for producing the program across the week, and to you, Tabitha and Bryant. Today is Friday. They call it Vendredi soir. Are we going out this night?
If it's so pleasant to you, why not?
Okay.
Prepare for tomorrow's program.
Okay.
Tomorrow's program.
Prepare for tomorrow's program. Still at Royal Palace.
Okay, there is a program tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
12 midday.
Can you tell it, the viewers?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Talk to my camera, please.
all right. Gateway Africa continues with the program tomorrow at Hotel Royal Palace, Ancien Route, Bonaberry, on the theme Unveiling Your Light. You are kindly invited to join us as we see in detail how unveiling our lights can help us spiritually, socially, psychologically, and in other spheres of our lives. Yeah.
So tomorrow, everybody is invited, midday right. Invited at Hotel Royal Palace. That's in Bonaberry.
Exactly.
Ancien Route.
Ancien Route.
Okay, if you are in Douala, please don't miss out on this occasion. You guys are all going to be there?
Yes, hopefully.
Okay. So take the rendezvous tomorrow midday at Hotel Royal Palace in Bonaberry, Ancien Route, to be more precise. We thank you and wish all of you a great weekend. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.